DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening we have some appetizers for you. And we're getting back to you from past Saturday night, talking about UFC 310 Pantoja versus Asakura, and that was December 7th, 2024, held at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, United States. And in attendance, there was 18,648 and 5 million total at the gate. All right, so this card, I think it lived. I don't think it surpassed what it was built up to be, but I think it lived up to what it was. Had some soon to be stars, soon to be champion title contenders, but then just talking the main card there, but also had some really good fights, and the early prelims and the prelims alone was good enough to I'd be marked up as a fight night. So you got from 5 p.m. Central Time to midnight, rolling over into Sunday. Just good quality fights, completely up and down the board. But even with the fighter bonuses, there's no fight of the night. So there really wasn't like a great fight where it was just back and forth and have you biting your nails at the end for the judges' predictions on who would pull out the split decision, even though there were some bad calls on this card. But let's get into this. Let's get into how I did, and how my predictions and methods and all that kind of worked out. It went okay, but I think it's a little. There should maybe be kind of an asterisk besides one of the fights that I did predict. It's one of the few ones that I predicted exactly right, but there'd probably be a lot of people out there that would argue it or have something to say otherwise about how that fight went. But let's get into it. So can I get a menu? And the first fight on the card was a featherweight bout. The main card that is. First bout on the main card, a featherweight bout between Choi Do-ho versus Nate Landwehr. And I originally predicted Nate Landwehr to get like the knockout in this, either knockout, TKO, and that happened a couple times to Chu Do-ho in some of his past 5 fights or so. He'd been knocked out like twice in a row, I think, like in what was it, the second round. So I was putting even a round on when I thought that this fight might end. Yeah, like back in 2018 and 2019, he was knocked out in back-to-back fights, and against Jeremy Stevens and Charles Jourdain. He was knocked out both in the second round of those fights. So I was kind of just going to go off of that and say that was going to happen, and thinking that Nate Landwehr was the more explosive and had more knockout power, even for just the featherweight division. But we didn't see that at all. We didn't see that at all. It was coming right out of the gate in the first round. It looked like Choi Do-ho had all the power and was faster, and looked like his shots were counting for more against Nate Landwehr. And Nate Landwehr was just literally getting bullied, and some of the punches or just kind of pushes off to the side of the head had him getting pushed around, and he just got bullied, kind of a complete opposite of what I expected in this fight. And that goes even for Nate Landwehr getting the knockout, which I thought it would have been standing. But yeah, so Choi Do-ho completely dominates the first round in pretty much strictly striking. And a fighter, even at his age, he's been fighting for a long time, but even at 33 years old, we'd never really seen much ground game from Choi Doo-ho because he'd never submitted anyone or anything like that. Even though this victory didn't go down as a submission victory either, but it very well could have been because he was just it was like after the first round he started going to the ground game and just doing uh, some slight submission attempts and going for just some ground and pound, and then just showed off a great ground game that we'd never seen from Choi Doo-ho, and Nate Landwehr just couldn't do anything about it, and that carried over into the third round where Choi Doo-ho got Nate Landwehr in a crucifix and just started landing like just completely unanswered, undefended elbows, and that's when you got the TKO elbows at the 3:21 mark of the third round. So if you were to, you could found bets, prop bets for Choi Doo-ho not TKOing Nate Landwehr from the crucifix position. That'd probably been pretty good numbers for that because I don't think anyone expected Choi Doo-ho to beat Nate Landwehr with just a dominant ground game and stopping him in the crucifix. So that's originally how I predicted it. I thought Nate Landwehr was going to get the knockout in the second round, but it ended up being Choo Do-hoi dominating in the striking game and then showing in the second and the third round that he was even better than Nate Landwehr on the ground as well. And he just looked a lot bigger than Nate Landwehr. So I didn't get the first right. The first prediction wasn't right, and the method wasn't right either. I guess you could say the method was right, but it wasn't for the right fighter. So the actual times and methods was featherweight Choo Do-hoi defeated Nate Landwehr with TKO elbows at the 3:21 mark of the third round. All right, now then on to the second fight on the main card, and this prediction, I think I don't know how serious I was with this prediction, with Bryce Mitchell. He's an Arkansan too. He's a brother of Arkansas and this is the South. The SEC. Southeastern Conference and area. So I can't hate on Bryce Mitchell too much, but I think I was being a little bit hard on him coming into this because I predicted Bryce Mitchell to lose off of just a gust of wind from Kron Gracie just because of the devastating and brutal knockout that Bryce Mitchell had taken like a year ago from Josh Emmett. So I didn't have much faith in Bryce Mitchell's chin until I got to see it. Now that I've seen it, maybe I'll have more confidence in maybe picking him in the next fight. But Bryce Mitchell, he looked great in this fight. He and he really didn't take any damage. Kron Gracie hardly threw a single punch when the fight started standing, and he was just trying to pull guard. Kron Gracie was. He'd literally just wrap his legs and his arms around Bryce Mitchell and just kind of trying to fall to his back. So he just kept pulling guard in this fight, what made for a bit of a boring fight up until the end of it because it was just Bryce Mitchell just trying to stay out of any type of submission attempts by Kron Gracie and doing the little bit he can to land some striking before the fight is literally pulled to the ground and land some ground and pound here and there. And then I guess it was towards the end of the second round, Kron Gracie almost got a setup for a pretty good looking armbar there for a moment. And then Bryce Mitchell was able to get out of that. And then Kron Gracie transitioned to like a triangle choke. But I think even after the rounds, it said that he got only credited for like one submission attempt when it was clear that he almost had him in an armbar and then almost had him in a triangle choke. Maybe it's just because that neither one of those submission attempts was fully sunk in. But you saw how dangerous a Gracie can be on the ground and even off their back. But so you got more of the same going into the third round. But I guess Kron Gracie just wasn't he wasn't focused enough and wasn't judicious enough on keeping head and arm and wrist control on Bryce Mitchell. So on one like shortly after he pulled guard and pulled Bryce Mitchell to the ground, Bryce Mitchell was able to pull up, because I guess he didn't have his Kron Gracie didn't have any head control or arm or wrist control, and he was able to pull up freely and throw a couple devastating elbows that slammed Kron Gracie's head off the back of the canvas, and one just solid eating him and KO'd him with like I guess a slam from the elbows, and the elbows like just a KO at the 39-second mark of the third round. And so that was impressive. So that fight went pretty much the opposite way of how I was expecting, and I got more respect for Bryce Mitchell and his chin now. I've seen it. I've seen that it's still durable enough to perform in the UFC. So it's nice to see our Kansan brother succeed. But yeah, so gone 0-2 the first two fights on the card, gone 0-2 and met method and everything. But those weren't fights that I was too keyed in on, especially the Choi Do Ho and Nate Landwehr fight. I knew quite a bit about Bryce Mitchell, but I was definitely very tentative before picking him after he got knocked out as bad as he did against Josh Emmett. But definitely the perfect fight for him to come back against a fighter like Kron Gracie, who's not really a striker, not really explosive or powerful or fast, but just a ground technician. So you didn't really have to worry about that, I guess, in this fight for him. So it was a good way for Bryce Mitchell to get his feet wet after being out for a year. All right. Now then, on to the third fight on the card, which really after the way it went and how it was considered by some to be a heavyweight title eliminator fight. It would have been a lot more. It would have been helpful if this fight would have actually been a 5-round fight, kind of like the Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Machado Gary fight was, because I think there's a lot of people that would say that this fight didn't go the way that they predicted it to, or thought it would after the fight was over, because Cyril Gane defeated Alexander Volkov split decision, 29, 28, 28, 29, and 29, 28. And that's just a 3-round fight. It would have probably helped if there would have been 2 more rounds, because Cyril Gane looked out of it, looked done after the third round. And I think there's judges, two of the judges gave Cyril Gane the first 2 rounds, and then one judge gave Cyril Gane the first round, and then gave Alexander Volkanovski the second and the third round. And this fight started out pretty much how I predicted it. I predicted that I thought Cyril Gane, it was going to be more of the same from their first fight, and Cyril Gane was going to end up winning this fight by decision, unanimous decision, split decision, and that's what happened. But I can't pat myself on the back or be too proud of this fight, because I really see it kind of how the one judge saw it, that it looked like really Cyril Gane only really won the first round, because it started out where in the first round where it's just kind of the striking and the kickboxing and the Muay Thai between Alexander Volkov and Cyril Gane, just kind of back and forth early in the fight, and then towards the end of the first round, Cyril Gane actually started trying to take the fight to the ground and try to get ground and pound and go for like submission attempts and things like that, which was so odd, and that kind of seemed to kind of backfire on Cyril Gane, because then in the third and in the second and the third round, Alexander Volkanovski started getting the better of that, and there was a little bit of back and forth from them striking and landing a little bit, standing up, and then one would get on the ground and get a little bit of positive positioning on the ground in the second round. But then in the third round, it was pretty much Alexander Volkanovski holding Cyril Gane down for like the entire third round and laying some pretty good ground and pound. Which once the horn sung, you had Alexander Volkov getting up, having his hands raising in the air like he'd won, and then next thing you see Cyril Gane is just still laying there like he's exhausted, like exasperated. That's why it would have been good if there had been 2 more rounds for this fight. So This was originally kind of predicted as being like a heavyweight title eliminator fight, but after it being such a poor decision and pick, I think even Dana White was whispering or trying to talk to Alexander Volkov after the fight about how he knew that it was a bad call or he thought it was a bad call. So with how Cyril Gane originally lost the belt and lost to John Jones and then won this fight, I would be seriously surprised if Cyril Gane gets a heavyweight championship bout after this uh, championship attempt after this. And the thing that left me a little bit confused and maybe has me a little bit leaning towards the pick that I made and that it was right is that the fighter stats that came out at the end of the fight it showed Cyril Gane's 40 significant strike to Alexander Volkov's just his 27 significant strikes, and then Cyril Gane was 1 for 2 on his takedowns, and then Alexander Volkov was 2 for 3 on his takedowns, and then both of them had like 5 minutes of control time. So I mean, if you're just looking off of that, you'd go and you kind of see where Silgan landed the more punches, but Alexander Volkov definitely looked more dominant and like he was winning and he had won that fight in the third round. There left there was a lot of visual of just Cyril Gane just didn't look great at the end of the third round. So I think that's really why a lot of people thought Silgan lost this fight. It was just because of how bad he looked in the third round. But you got to remember, these aren't just 1 round fights, or these aren't round. These you can't judge an entire fight off of just 1 round unless there's obviously a finish. So maybe it was a bad call, maybe it wasn't, but I'd be surprised if Cyril Gane gets a title shot after that performance because even if he did win, I mean, he did on the record books, but even so, it wasn't an impressive victory at all. All right, now then on to the co-main event. We have a welterweight title eliminator bout between Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Gary. Shavkat Rakhmonov coming into this fight at 18-0, and Ian Machado Gary coming in as 15-0. And I predicted that Shavkat Rakhmonov would win this fight, so we got that right. We're getting on a little bit of a winning streak here towards the end of this card. I predicted that I thought he would win this fight, and he would win this fight by some type of choke, a rear naked choke, a head and arm triangle choke, something like that. Because I expected him just from the history of all the submission victories that Shavkat Rakhmonov's had, and just being so good in that combat sambo and submission Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I just and then Ian Machado Gary just having more of an explosive and dangerous and electric striking style, but Shavkat Rakhmonov having a more technical and better striking, more accuracy, So I think we got a lot of what I was expecting with how this fight went. It just looked like Shavkat Rakhmonov was a kind of a step ahead, whether it was in the striking game or in the wrestling game, and seemed like he kind of dominated that for a good portion of the fight. I think the official judge had this fight scored which rounds that they had given. They had given round 3 and 5 to Ian Machado Gary. So I think Ian Machado Gary maybe was starting to get a little bit of traction come the third round. And then it would have been terrible if this fight would have ended the way it almost did in the fifth round, because I predicted that Shavkat Rakhmonov would get Ian Machado Gary and get him in some type of choke and finish him. And the closest and probably the biggest moment of this fight came in the fifth round, like the kind of the midway of the fifth round, where Shavkat Rakhmonov went to take Ian Machado Gary down, and then Ian Machado Gary actually ended up on his back and had that rear naked choke or that face crank almost sunk in. He got to see some wide eye and some terror in Shavkat Rakhmonov's eyes there for a moment, and I think that was enough for Ian Machado Gary to be proud of himself for his performance, even though he didn't win. He doesn't feel as if he was a loser either, however that works. But he's 15-1 now. But this fight went close to how I went, but almost went about as wrong as you could predict. You predict the sambo, the submission jiu-jitsu guy, and to win by some type of choke, and then he gets choked out by his opponent. But that didn't happen. Shavkat Rakhmonov was able to ride it out and get the unanimous decision. It was 48, 47, 48, 47, 48, 47, and all the judges had Shavkat Rakhmonov winning the the second, the first and second and the fourth round. So there was no controversy really there. That's what make this card kind of good to some extent. The main card, the pay-per-view, having controversy in any type of way is it's not always a negative thing. It draws attention and excitement and gets fans talking about stuff, whether it's good or bad. You need a little bit of that. You need a little bit of everything, like a supreme pizza or something. Not everyone likes uh, not everyone likes the anchovies, but it adds some saltiness, a little bit of tart, a little bit of tang that you usually don't have. So that's kind of how I look at as a bad decision or a bad uh, ref stoppage or something. It adds some intrigue, whether it's good or bad. But didn't have that in the Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ian Machado Gary, pretty clear winner by Shavkat, but he got close. It was close. Ian Machado Gary was really close. If Shavkat Rakhmonov just didn't have just quite as good of submission defense and rear naked choke defense, he may have been able to get him. All right, now then, on to the main event. We have a flyweight championship bout between Alexander Pantoja, the champion, versus Kaya Asakura, the challenger, coming over, the champion from Ryzen. We were talking about the talent pool of the flyweight division must not be very great if there's a fighter coming over from Ryzen, coming over from Japan, and automatically getting a title challenge, a title opportunity, a challenge for the title. I guess it's just main reason, I guess, because Alex Pantoja has beaten everyone else that's even worth talking about. But this fight went basically exactly how I predicted it. I predicted Alexander Pantoja would get a submission of some sort, probably a choke of some sort, rear naked choke or a head and arm triangle choke, something like that. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. He got technical submission, rear naked choke at the 2:05 mark of the second round, and he got put to sleep. Like he had to get arm checked, limp. He went limp before he tapped. So I guess he went out on his sword like a samurai in that regard. But this fight was kind of what we expected from Kai Oscura, is that he was coming out early, like right off the bat. We kind of saw Jorge Masvidal like knee, like that was the opening strike by Alexander Pantoja and Kai Oscurov. Kai Oscurov threw like a flying knee, and it just partially landed. And then throughout the first round, that's kind of what all you were seeing from Kai Oscurov was these one shot explosive attempts, trying to have the point strike on like explosive punches and spinning back fist and flying knees and stuff like that. But he was never able to land anything significant on Alexander Pantoja. And then in the second round is when Alexander Pantoja realized like that was really kind of Kai Oscuro's only chance to victory was landing some crazy wild shot that drops him and then just hammering him down with some ground and pound. But you didn't get that, and Alexander Pantoja didn't really give Kai Oscuro an opportunity to do that in the second round, because he started taking him down, took him down and pretty much dominated until he got his back and put him to sleep, left him limp on the canvas. So impressive victory and performance by Alexander Pantoja, the champion. I just don't know. I just don't know who you have to face him now. I guess with Shavkat Rakhmonov, it'll be Bilal Muhammad once he comes back from injury. What had like infected bone in his toe or something. So we know where the welterweight is headed, but don't know about the heavyweight division. But we know that Alexander Pantoja, he'll face anybody. I guess who's next? You got like the Grim Reaper at the door, going like Alexander Pantoja going to the next door of like who's next. He feels very similar in the flyweight division. Alexander Pantoja, kind of like Ilia Topuria, but that's the card. It was a good card, just for the main card in general. It was nice to have a card for a pay-per-view card, and for the first time in a little while, the first couple pay-per-views, and this being the last UFC pay-per-view event of the year as well. I think it was good, but it was nice having some stoppages, some submissions, a couple knockouts. That adds for some excitement. Just the last thing to kind of go over here is some performance of the nights, the $50,000 bonuses. So we talked about how there wasn't a fight of the night, which was kind of disappointing. That kind of tells you that even though the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight went all 5 rounds, and Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov fight went split decision, even so, those fights weren't overly exciting. It was kind of just Cyril Gane pulling out a win by the skin of his teeth, and made a lot of people thinking he didn't, and then just mostly just Shavkat Rakhmonov, besides really the 5th round where he almost got caught in a wicked choke, just dominated Ian Machado Gary. So there's no fight of the night bonus, but there's some performance of the nights due to like some impressive finishes, like Alexander Pantoja with his, we just talked about it, his technical submission rear naked choke where he put Kai Askarov to sleep, didn't tap. Then on the preliminary card, we had Vincent Lequi, technical submission anaconda choke, Thimba Gorimbo, and then Chase Hooper on the early prelims was an impressive submission armbar on Clay Guida, who I'm crazy that he's still fighting. And then the first fight of the night was Kennedy Nzechukwu, had an impressive first round knockout over Lucas Brzezinski. So that was impressive. A little disappointing that you didn't get some more performance of the nights coming off of the main card, or the fight or a fight of the night off the main card, but still a pretty good card from top to bottom, and notable names, and you got finishes, and it was exciting. It was a good card, good. Like, it didn't over exceed or overperform, but for it being the last card of the 2024 season, UFC season, I thought it was good. It definitely performed well enough, and didn't underperform. And like I said, some people out there really like the controversies of bad judging, and I didn't think it was really that much of a problem, besides just the co-main event. But I think that's about all I have for you. So can I get a check, please?